Well, welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. This is the summer scouting edition with Anthony. So, Anthony, it is May 3rd. The NFL draft was, I guess it was last weekend. It feels like it was so long ago, but I guess it was just last weekend, right?
Yeah. It's only been a week and a half now, whatever it's been. But this is exciting. It is a little weird. We call it summer scouting because it's not the summer yet. But nevertheless, this is an exciting time putting the 2026 board together. There's some fun players in this class, and I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, and just to give the audience a little bit of, I'm going to, let's say, set the expectations of what you're about to hear. So we're going to be covering 18 and 12. We're going to be covering 30 players at 5 different positions. So Anthony has had the time to watch some players. If you think that we forgot a player, definitely drop it into the chat. And every week you will see a different draft professor doing their summer scouting for the next 15 weeks. And if you want to hear Anthony's full board coming out of the summer, you got to come back in August because Anthony will be back to talk about his favorite players at the end of August as we enter the college football season. So, Anthony, I think the first position you wanted to talk about was wide receivers. So what wide receivers have you watched and liked?
Yeah, so wide receivers interesting. Last year I think everybody was on the Tetaroa and Luther Burden train, 2 very different receivers. This year, I don't know if there's a clear-cut wide receiver one, going into the season, but for me, I think that the big names that you may have already heard, guys like Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, really came alive as Sam Levitt's number 1 target for the Sun Devils, and he's expected to have a really big season as long as he can stay healthy. Denzel Boston is a big target out of Washington, 6'4", 209, but moves incredibly well for his size. It will, and obviously his former teammate Rome Odunze also was a top 10 pick a couple of years ago, so he could very well be on that trajectory. Speaking of schools churning out great wide receivers, Carnell Tate from Ohio State is very much in the lineage of Buckeye wide receivers that we've seen go to the NFL. Just a big, reliable target that even as wide receiver 3 for the Buckeyes last season, still made big plays in big games. So definitely somebody to watch as he likely gets more targets and playing time opposite Jeremiah Smith. Antonio Williams out of Clemson is a very just dynamic, explosive playmaker. Undersized, I guess, sure, but he's just so quick and has he's actually pretty tough, I'd say. He almost plays above his weight, so to speak. Makes some tough catches. So he's an exciting playmaker to watch this year. One guy that I am just going to keep banging the drum on until next April is Bryce Lance out of North Dakota State. I think he is a special talent, and you can watch the playoff run that North Dakota State had this past season. I believe it was they played Montana State and South Dakota State, I think were the 2 games. But he makes catches that normal people don't make. Normal wide receivers don't make some of the catches that he was able to make last year. He had 17 touchdowns. He is big. He's 6'3", 204, but very athletic. And my guess he's actually fairly quick for his size. I would guess like a high 4.4 speed guy. So I am all on the Bryce Lance train, and I haven't seen any mock drafts with him in it. And I don't know what I'm missing. I don't know if I don't know about something that would make him not be a top receiver. But buy the Bryce Lance stock now is what I would say. And And finally, I would highlight Zachariah Branch. He just transferred to Georgia from USC this past season. Smaller guy, I think he was 5'10", 175, something like that. But another just quick separator, able to run good routes and get open and then use his speed to make really dynamic plays. At the very least, he is a very potent kickoff return option, but I think he can carve out a really good slot role if he gets just more consistent and we see more reliability when he's at Georgia this year. But yeah, so those are some receivers for sure that I think you should be looking at.
So I love that list. Love the call outs of who's the gentleman from North Dakota State?
Bryce Lance, who is the brother of North Dakota State legend quarterback Trey Lance, former third overall pick. So yes, there is a family lineage there. So
what I like about the draft professors is we're probably going to stumble upon plenty of players like this. I would say that the content gold for anybody that is following our podcast through the summer scouting is you need to watch Bryce Lance. I would say he's a must watch because if we don't see other publications talking about him, that's a player that we should begin to talk about and that anybody that follows this podcast will know about. So definitely would like to point that out. And you're confident with your evaluation style that right now, I think you told me that you've evaluated just over 50 players, but you think all these players would be in your top 100 coming out of the summer?
Those 6 receivers, I could definitely see all 6 of them being top 100 guys for sure. I think maybe the only one I'd be a little not as confident on is Zachariah Branch, because I can see the world where he just doesn't really produce a ton at Georgia and kind of sort of gets lost in their offense. But I do think he flashed enough just explosive playmaking ability that you could still have him as a top 100 guy. But yeah, all of those guys are, I would say, pretty solidly top 100 for me at this point.
Okay. And with that being said, we are going to pivot to the next position that we're going to cover. So on the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, we are doing summer scouting, and this is really early. We're May 3rd, so this is really early in the process. The NFL draft literally finished last weekend, but we are now going to pivot to running backs. So, Anthony, what running backs have you watched and liked so far?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the very obvious big name that everyone's probably already heard of, but, you have to talk about him anyway, Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. Just a elite when it comes to just speed and burst, and especially for his size. I mean, he's 6'2", 212, but he is definitely at least like a 4.3 speed guy, if I had to guess. Super athletic. There's a play, I forget now who it was against, but made an incredible hurdle over a defender. I want to say Penn State, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm sure if you look up Jeremiah Love hurdle, you'll find it. But yeah, and I think he checks every box in terms of physical traits and just overall physical talent. So I think he has some things to work on. There's also the question of workload, but I think he's got all the talent is there. A couple other guys. Mekhi Hughes, he just transferred from Tulane to Oregon this year, so I would fully expect him to sort of take the Jordan James role that we saw from Jordan James last year. I think he's another guy. He's got really good quick first step, able to burst through the hole, and then has that second gear to run away from people. And I actually think he's a pretty decent blocker as well. Also 0 fumbles, which I always think is a underrated plus for running backs in general. Jonah Coleman from Washington, who I think was a guy that some people thought would come out this past year, but didn't. He went back to school. Bigger back, bigger as in stockier, I should say. He's 5'9", but he's 229. He is that guy that is just, you're never going to get him down on the first hit, constantly breaking tackles. I think he has really good vision as well. I think you just got to add more as a receiver. You'll see against Oregon, he has a really bad drop against them, and also his only fumble. But in his defense, he kind of got mollywopped, and I think anyone would have fumbled on the play he did. But nevertheless, Jonah Coleman's solid. Who else do I have here? I talked about Jeremiah. Nick Singleton is another one I thought would declare this past year, but didn't. He went back to school for Penn State. He is, I think, the prototypical, the NFL running back that you want in terms of 3-down guys. He's dynamic as a runner with burst and explosiveness. He has and good contact balance as well. He's probably the best receiver out of all the backs that I've mentioned so far, and maybe out of any running back in college football. You kind of just wonder if he can be a true workhorse, because he does have a sort of rotational role with Kaytron Allen, who is another running back that will probably be in the draft as well this year. But Nick Singleton, I think, has a lot higher upside than Kaytron Allen does, and I would fully expect him. I think he would have been in the top 50 conversation if he had come out this past year. So if he's able to build on that, I think first round is very possible. And finally, I'll talk about Darius Taylor from Minnesota. He is he's well built. He's 6 foot 215. I think he follows his blockers really well. Very much a downhill runner, I'd say. He'll keep his legs driving and lower his shoulder when he needs to. And I think he's actually one of the better pass blockers as well. So he does have some, preliminary value on third down, I would say. Mainly just, he's not going to be that, the breakaway guy that like a Jeremiah Love is or a Mekhi Hughes is, but definitely a guy that could get some early down touches for you in the league and then could potentially grow into being more of that 3-down guy.
Okay, so you got to Singleton, but you haven't gotten to Allen yet?
I have. He's not in my top 100. I'm not a big Kaytron Allen guy, but he's there.
Got it. Okay. Any other running backs to mention?
One to watch, I'll say, C.J. Donaldson. He just transferred from West Virginia to Ohio State. I think the interesting thing with him, and he had a very good season at West Virginia. He weighed 238 pounds, something like that, like tied 230s when he was at West Virginia. I've read he's now transferred to Ohio State, who obviously just had 2 running backs that were taken in the top 40 this past draft. And he's lost, I think he's down to like 227 in that range. So he's lost about, 10, 15 pounds, which for me, the biggest issue I had when watching him was sort of just like explosiveness and, just quick burst, that kind of thing. So if he loses, if he has lost that weight and is able to, in turn gain that explosiveness and quickness, for a guy that's 227 pounds, he could be definitely one to watch, especially again, like at Ohio State, where we've seen them churning out running backs as of late.
Cool. So I like the C.J. Donaldson call out. That was definitely a new one. So all of the players that are being discussed will be added to the Draft Professor Simulator if they are not already. CJ Donaldson was the first player that we've discussed so far today that was not included already. Any other running backs that you like?
Let's see. No, I think that pretty much covers anyone that I would say is like a top 100 guy at least. I think that that's pretty much who I've got at this point.
Right. And if I understand the fidelity by which you're communicating, is you're communicating players right now that you're confident will be in your top 100 at the end of the summer based upon your history of how you've graded players before.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. These guys could be, yes, these guys likely, I'd say, will be in the top 100. Again, I think in this case, maybe Donaldson would fall out, but I fully could expect him to be there. And this is also because I'm also kind of just basing this on like how I've graded them. And like all of the guys I just mentioned are either mostly their day 2 grades. So if they have a day 2 grade, I would expect them to be, at least like top 100, if not like top 50 or 75. So that's my expectation. Could there be a world where there's day 2 grades? There's just so many guys that have day 2 grades on them that people get knocked down. Sure. But I would be pretty surprised if that happened. So yeah, I would expect that. I would expect pretty much all those guys to be top 100.
And while you mentioned Singleton and we brought up Katron Allen before, you're not mentioning Katron Allen just because you're not high on him to include him in your top 100, but that is a running back that you are familiar with as well, right?
Yes, because Katron Allen and Nick Singleton both were candidates to come out last year. So I watched both of them. I watched Singleton more because I was, higher on him. But Katron Allen is just a very, he's the thunder to Singleton's lightning, so to speak, where he's this big body. He'll run through you, very, the goal line guy that you want at running back. I just don't think he has NFL quickness and NFL speed to really factor in, besides in like goal line, short yardage situations. So that's my issue with him. I think he's an NFL draft prospect, but no, not top 100.
Okay. So we have finished wide receivers and running backs. We're pivoting now to offensive tackles. This is the Mrs. Are Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. This is our first summer scouting show. It is being recorded on May 3rd. So Anthony's board, you said, is between 50 and 100 players right now. But you have found, you said 5 or 6 offensive tackles that you really like. So you want to talk about them for a second?
Yeah. So this tackle class is very interesting. we'll say. So we'll start with Caden Proctor. Big body from Alabama. 6'7", 369. He will potentially get charged with murder on some plays, but he is just a menace of a left tackle. Definitely a guy that I think will be in first-round conversations. Utah has 2 really quality tackles. Spencer Fano is the right tackle, and Caleb Lomu is the left tackle. Both of them are very smooth. I don't know who their offensive line coach is. He's doing a hell of a job because you can just see they're very technically sound. They, like I said, they're smooth, athletic blockers. They're very much not Caden Proctor when it comes to size. They are definitely on the smaller side for tackles, but I think they make up for it just fine with their just fluidity. Why did I just lost my spot? Oh, so one guy that another one of these guys I think is getting sort of missed by a lot of people is Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern. Bigger guy, also he's 6'7", 329. our buddy Cole mentioned that if you like Will Campbell, you'll like Caleb Tiernan. And I think that's actually pretty accurate, even though I was actually lower on Will Campbell than most people. But I definitely think there's a similar skill set to him as well. So that's a name I would keep my eye on if you're looking for an offensive tackle. And finally, I'll shout out Francis Mauigoa. I'm lower on him than most people, but I think he's still certainly a top 100 player. Right tackle out of Miami. He has everything you want in terms of the size, athleticism profile. He's 6'6", 315. But I think I think he's very athletic. He does a really good job with his hands. When he gets his hands on defenders, he'll keep them in place. You'll see in their bowl game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl against Iowa State, he had a fantastic double block where he set up the defender, moved the defender over, and then proceeded to get to the next level, opened up a huge hole for Damian Martinez to have, I think it was like a 70-yard touchdown or something like that. But a lot of that play was set up by Mauigoa doing an impressive job. So he certainly is a player that, a lot of people have him going first round. I'm not there with him, but the talent is there, and I could certainly see the world where if he cleans up I just see some technical flaws in his game and some consistency problems. But if he cleans that up, for sure it could be a first round guy, if not, like top 10.
Okay. Any other offensive tackles or offensive linemen that you want to mention?
I'll mention also Thomas Rimmock. He is so he was at West Virginia this past year. He is now transferred to Virginia Tech because that is where his offensive line coach now is. He moved there this past offseason. He's a bigger guy. He's 6'6", 318. I think he has good foot speed and lateral agility. He's also very experienced. This is his fourth year. He's going to be a starter. Obviously, he was a starter at West Virginia. This will be his first at Virginia Tech. But we have seen West Virginia's coach, who's now at Virginia Tech, has been churning out NFL linemen. You think about Wyatt Milam this past year. You think about Zach Frazier. It was the year before or 2 years before. So this guy can coach offensive linemen and coach them well. So I think Thomas Rimmock, and I assume I'm saying that correctly, but I think he is a guy that could be. I think some people will say he could slide inside, and that was also why I'm a little hesitant to bring him up. But I do think he could stay outside.
Cool. I love getting the new names. That's exactly why we do this. So if you are building a player board and you watch Thomas Rimmock, formerly of, you said West Virginia and now moved to Virginia Tech?
Correct. Yeah, he was at West Virginia for 3 years. He started all 3 years, and now is at Virginia Tech.
So that would be an example of, hey, we are draft professors. We're digging. We're trying to find players. If you watch them, let us know what you think. Are you as high on them as Anthony? We've got a couple of more positions that we are going to cover today. And this is our Relevant Daily Draft podcast. We are doing summer scouting, and this is being recorded on May 3rd. Anthony, I think the next position you said you wanted to do was safeties. So what safeties have you watched that you like?
Yeah, so this safety class, I'll just say now, in my opinion, the positional value argument that we have every year with, this year I think it was running back. I think safety is really going to challenge that this year. The obvious, super obvious one, Caleb Downs, Ohio State. He's just like, he's pretty perfect. Like, I mean, it's really hard to find issues in his game. It's just so smart, reliable tackler. He's got the size. His brother Josh is the wide receiver for the Colts. But yeah, Caleb Downs has pretty much everything you could ever want in a safety. I will be stunned. I know he's a safety, but I'll be stunned if he's not a top 10 pick if he has the kind of season that he should. Another one who I think is a awesome player is Dylan Feineman. He's been at Purdue. He is now at Oregon. He just transferred there. Awesome athlete. I think he had a down year last year, but I think he suffered from, I'll say misuse by the Purdue coaching staff. But I think he's got everything you want as just a center fielder, safety in the NFL. Couple other guys. So Kamari Ramsey was a guy who another guy I thought could very well have declared this past year, but didn't. Went back to USC. But he is very much another guy that is just really solid in coverage, very fluid. He's got really good ball skills. Don't be surprised if he sneaks into the top 50. I think he could have done that this year as well. DQ Smith from South Carolina. He was the running mate for Nicky Monwari this past year. Another just, I don't know if he's a Nicky Monwari athlete, but he's very athletic in his own right. He's 6'1", 219, but he's big, physical, closes well. Don't be surprised. He's also a former quarterback. He was quarterback in high school. Don't be surprised if he is a guy that is a riser on draft boards. And then finally, one of my favorites is Bray Hubbard from Alabama. He is another bigger safety. He's 6'2", 204. I think he's really fluid, very versatile. He has 100 snaps in the slot, in the box, and at free safety. So sort of a Swiss Army knife defender. He's really smart. I think he's got really good football IQ as well. Alabama's got two safeties, actually. Him and Keon Sabb will be another one to watch, but I'm higher on Hubbard at this point. But don't be surprised if they turn out two safeties that are, top 100 picks.
Okay. So I like that. And I would definitely concur from what the chatter is amongst draft professors. This is shaping up to be a good safety class from the standpoint of there's going to be several players at the top. You've mentioned Caleb Downs, and then there's going to be a couple more players that filter down. And if you even think about this past draft with Malachi Starks and Nick Emmanwori, who both went in the top 50, this draft is probably going to have at least as many players go in the top 50, but probably more from the safety class standpoint. So like that shout out. Any other safeties that you would like to bring up?
Let's see. Talked about Bray. I'll mention Isaac Smith from Mississippi State. I did watch him. He's a bigger guy, 6', 220. Very what you think of the prototypical box safety is pretty much what you get from Isaac Smith, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Very tough, sound tackler. One of the, arguably, I would say, maybe the best tackler in this safety class, other than maybe like Caleb Downs, but Isaac Smith would certainly give him a run for his money. Physical, he'll hit you in the mouth, and his motor's always running. Just you see the effort on tape. he lacks in what a typical box safety would normally lack, which is, that coverage ability, the ball skills, the top end speed. You don't really see those things. But if you are looking for a box safety come April, Isaac Smith will be a great pickup for you.
Awesome. Any other safeties?
No, I think that's about it. And I'll echo what you said, and I mentioned it earlier, but this safety class is really good, and I think it also, there's a lot of flavors. There's a lot of different things for what a team would need out of the safety position. Again, Dylan Feineman is that center fielder, rangy, athletic. Send him down the field and let him go make a play. Whereas, again, like Isaac Smith, who I just mentioned, complete antithesis of that. And then a guy like Caleb Downs can kind of just do everything. But if you're a team that needs a safety or at least needs an upgraded safety, you got a good year coming.
Okay. And this is the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. We are doing summer scouting. This is being recorded on May 3rd. Anthony's going through 5 positions that has players that he likes. The last position is corner. So what corners have you watched that you've liked?
Yeah, so we'll start at the top again. Right now, for me, corner one, and it's very close with the next guy I'll mention, but it is Jermod McCoy from Tennessee. He's 6 foot, 190. I think he is just like the ideal. He's just the ideal corner that can just cover a zone. I had a brain fart. He is the ideal zone cover corner. His ability to read and close on receivers, follow the quarterback's eyes and make a play is just fantastic. Best in the class, I'd say. And he plays the ball really well. He's got really good speed on the outside. You will, if you watch his game against Ohio State, you will see Jeremiah Smith burn him. But also remember, that's Jeremiah Smith, and Jeremiah Smith beats pretty much every corner he faces. So I wouldn't, hold that against him too much. But, I think right now Jermod McCoy is the best, my CB1 right now. But it's very close with my CB2, who is DJ McKinney from Colorado. He's 6'2", 190 pounds. If you're into athletic corners, DJ McKinney is number one. He is number one. He is so freakishly athletic. You will see it as soon as I turned on the first game, you can just tell that he was, other than Travis Hunter, one of the best athletes on the field. I think he does a really good job at sinking and turning his hips really well. Stays tight in man coverage. Also just finds himself in position to make plays. So DJ McKinney is a guy I'd get excited about. And like I said, we just, saw what Dion did with Travis Hunter as a corner this year. I think we could see, maybe not that level, not a Heisman, but certainly that kind of productivity at the cornerback position. I think another one that I would be, another one that I think could find himself in the first round is Avion Terrell from Clemson. He is the younger brother of AJ Terrell. Smaller than the guys I've mentioned. He's only 5'11", and like 180 pounds. But he's another one that does a really good job with lowering his hips, being fluid. He's able to mirror really well in man coverage. You could tell he's fast too. He has some bad penalties. Watch the Pittsburgh game. You'll see he gets grabby and just it doesn't look great, but Avion Terrell is a guy to watch for sure. Another guy that I've already seen getting first round hype. John Keys Hardaway, also known as JQ Hardaway, and I hope I said John Keys correctly. But he's the tallest corner I'm going to mention here. He's 6'3", $190. He is, I think he uses his size really well. Again, the 6'3" frame. He disrupts receivers on their routes. I think he does a really good job of, keeping plays in front of him and not really getting, burned and beaten over the top a ton. There are times where he finds himself either out of position or he just, turns his hips the wrong way, something like that. But if he could just get, a little more aggressive and a little more clean in his technique, the physical stuff, I think, is all there for him to be a top corner at the next level. And then I'll mention one. This is another guy that I think the general draft community will be higher on than I am and will be. But it's Jair Hill from Michigan. Expected to pretty much take the Will Johnson role at Michigan this year. Similar to Will Johnson, he's got the corner one size. He's 6'2", 185. And he is really solid when it comes to tracking the ball in the air. He can be physical at the line of scrimmage with wide receivers. He just doesn't have that top end speed and athleticism that you would like. You'll watch. He played against Denzel Boston, who I talked about in the receiver section of this, but he played against him and just got absolutely burned on the first play of the game, or I think at least the first pass of the game. But Denzel Boston just cuts out, shifts back up top, and you just watch Jair Hill just go into that Patrick Starr meme where everything is around him is confused, or Mr. Krabs meme where everything is confusing. But yeah, so Jair Hill has those moments on tape, and that's probably why I'm not as high on him. But certainly, I would say still a top 100 guy. And if he cleans that stuff up and stays healthy, he also dealt with injuries this past year. But if he does that, it could easily, be a riser and be a pretty solid first round pick.
Cool. Any other corners that you want to mention?
Let's see. Is there anybody? No. I'll talk about so Ashton Stamps from LSU. LSU's had their good corners over the years. And this year he'll actually be playing opposite Mansour Delane, who I just haven't watched him yet. So I won't talk about him here, but he has also gotten top 100 hype as well. But Ashton Stamps is another guy that I think is very good at tracking the ball in the air, using his athleticism to make plays, and can also be physical at times. Trey Harris kind of just killed him when they played Ole Miss this past year. But I do think he showed flashes of being a good corner. So he'll have to, clean some stuff up. He plays stiff at times, and feels kind of just a step behind in general when it comes to him processing plays. But I do think there's potential for him there. So Ashton Stamps and Mansour Delane, two LSU guys that could find their way higher on the corner boards.
I definitely like the shout out for Mansour Delane. I believe Bill and Randall were really high on Delane if he came out this year.
Yeah, I remember. I just never watched him because he obviously didn't declare, and then it was him and Dorian Strong at Virginia Tech. So I had only watched Strong because he was in the draft and Delane wasn't. But yeah, I've seen the hype for Mansour Delane. People are excited about him. So I will not be surprised if Mansour Delane is a top 100 guy for me. I just haven't watched him, so I can't say that definitively, but another name to watch for sure.
Yeah, and a couple things I'd like to point out with summer scouting. So at Draft Professors, we're not trying to, say these are the top 10. If you want the top 10 corners, go watch another podcast. That's not what we're doing. We're saying these are guys that we're keeping our eye on. We'll have a consensus board at the end of the summer with the different players that people have watched. But what's most important is these are players to keep our eye on because they still have a full season of college football to change their evaluation. So this is all about us knowing what players should all of us be looking at, which players are we going to do scouting reports on. Anthony, any other player at corner, safety, running back, wide receiver, offensive tackle that you want to mention?
Is there anybody else? No, I think that pretty much covered it. And obviously, again, too, like I'm only 50 something players deep. So I certainly guys that I haven't watched yet that I'm sure will, easily crack my top 100. Probably will crack my top 50. So yeah, don't take this as, like Bill said, don't take this as like these are the top corners or these are the top receivers like that. This is it. This is the definitive list. Like a lot of this is going to change. I'm going to be constantly changing my board, and then obviously the next season still has to happen. So guys can see a huge rise or a huge fall with their stock. Time will tell, but I feel good about all of these guys that I've talked about as at least guys that will find themselves in the draft conversation as, top 100 guys, if not higher than that.
Yeah. And Anthony, I appreciate you taking some time to record this because I know that this is a grind. So the basic concept of Draft Professors will be this, right? So every week there's going to be a different draft professor that's going to go through 5 positions. I was telling Anthony prior to the podcast starting, I said, you have the easy job because you're going first. So Anthony had, 5 or 6 guys that he liked at 5 different positions. The expectation would be anybody that does corners or safeties after Anthony will at minimum have watched the 7 that Anthony said, and then they're going to add a few to the list. So by the time you get to the end of the list, that's where Bill Sparks comes in. And Bill's going to have the last podcast because Bill always watches more players than everybody else. It's just the way that Bill does things, and that's why we love Bill at Draft Professors. But with that being said, we are going to close this recording down. I appreciate and we appreciate everybody that is watching. And if you are doing summer scouting and there's other players that you think we would be watching or we should be watching or mentioning, let us know. If you would like to come on and do a podcast and tell us about what guys you watched and liked, you are also welcome to do that. And the best way to do that is to follow Anthony at Anthony Russo 97. Okay, you can follow him on X, or you can follow the channel at NFL Draft Fanatic. No, I am Fanatic. So if you'd like to come on a podcast and talk about the players that you've watched and liked, you have the opportunity to do that over the summer. You just have to get in touch with us and let us know that you'd like to come on. And it would be a podcast format very similar to what Anthony did here in early May. So, Anthony, anything else you'd like to tell the audience about where they can find your content or other things that you do in the draft community?
No, I mean, yeah, my X is the main source for my draft opinions and takes. I've started to post some clips from guys that I've mentioned here, and other guys that I'm a fan of. But yeah, you can check me out there. I'll be doing, I'm sure, other podcasts down the road when it comes to the 2026 class, besides the one at the end of August. But yeah, no, you can check me out there, and I'd love to hear feedback. People tell me why I'm insane, why I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm always open to feedback, positive or negative.
So for all 75 draft professors, for Anthony, for myself, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on a podcast again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.